Hey everyone, I'm Henry. It's day 45, so halfway on this 90-day alcohol purge, alcohol cleanse. My name is Henry. I'm a professor of philosophy and religion and a spiritual leader. Please seek professional help in getting over substance abuse issues. So, day 45, halfway. This has been a month and a half, absolutely no alcohol, yeah, even at a wedding, even out with friends. And the social aspect that I thought was so troubling actually is not so bad at all. Actually, I enjoy these social occasions probably better than if I was drinking alcohol. So the focus has shifted. Again, alcohol is a choice, and there are many choices. So if you go down that path, then there are other paths that you tend to give less prominence to. So when I'm out socializing, I'm more into what the conversation is about, what the food is like, seeing how people are doing. So it's a matter of focus, and as human beings we have a limited focus. So it's a matter of our choice of where we want to put our interest and get our rewards. So today I want to talk about what the scientists and medical people are telling us about alcohol. So one expert is Dr. Tommy Wood. He was speaking on a podcast of Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. This is a very well-known podcast. And what he says, that overall there's no health benefit to drinking alcohol. And then he notes specifically that sleep and temperature regulation are areas of the brain that alcohol affects and has negative impacts for our ability to control our temperature, our ability to sleep. And so he personally has limited alcohol to about once a month. And that always says something when experts look at something and then they take their own advice and are able to do that. We have talked a lot about how alcohol affects what's going on upstairs in the brain, how it really messes up the neurotransmitters, and then our brain has to work to rebalance to reach a state of homeostasis. But another area of research that scientists are looking at is what's happening in our intestines, what's happening in our gut, and the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome is all those bacteria and other organisms living in our gut. And I'm going to quote from Dr. Amy Myers, who's a medical doctor, and it's the article entitled Alcohol and Gut Health. Your body's largest microbiome is in your gut, where 80% of your immune system lives. So this is going to be important because if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're introducing this toxic material into your gut, where 80% of your immune system lives. I didn't know that. I think if your gut microbiome was a rainforest where billions and billions and probably trillions and trillions of microbes live in harmony with one another, so that sense of homeostasis, your body's trying to control which bacteria are living there. This rainforest contains good and bad bacteria, viruses, and yeast in a delicate balance. So again, if you are introducing alcohol, which kills a lot of these little bugs, little bacteria, you're upsetting that balance. It's also where most of the digestion of your food takes place. Your gut microbiome is also where 95% of your serotonin is made, the feel-good hormone. So that will affect your brain. So here we have a potential problem with alcohol interfering with serotonin production. When this delicate balance gets disrupted by whatever forces, dysbiosis can occur, and this leads to an overgrowth of some bacteria. So that's Dr. Amy Myers. So also in an article entitled Alcohol and Gut Health Issues, alcohol promotes both dysbiosis and bacterial overgrowth, leading to an increase in toxins that activate immune cells that promote inflammation. Studies show that alcohol increases bad gut bacteria, causing an imbalance between the good and bad bacteria. So this is the idea that we're introducing alcohol, a toxin, into our digestive system, into our gut, our intestines, and it's interfering with the process there because alcohol kills bacteria. It's been used as an antiseptic historically. So yet another negative influence in our biology that our body seeks to remove. So we have this idea, and I don't think the sciences have completely settled on this, just how much does alcohol kill the bacteria in our gut. But we have that idea that we are introducing a toxin into our digestive system. And the question is, well, how much damage does it do, and how much drinking does it take to do that? And you could say, oh, maybe one glass of wine is not going to do much, but one aspect of drinking that I'm getting educated about is that really binge drinking is a very normal pattern for a lot of people who drink. And binge drinking does not necessarily mean 10 or 20 drinks. The CDC defines binge drinking as men consuming 5 or more drinks, women consuming 4 or more drinks. And others define it as reaching a blood alcohol level of 0.08. So I think we all know that a lot of people are fitting the definition of binge drinking. So they're taking a lot of alcohol in their stomach and in their intestines. So it does make sense that there is possibly a very large negative impact by people's drinking habits on their gut bacteria and perhaps the serotonin that is produced. So not only is it really affecting our brain biochemistry, it's affecting our gut microbiome. And it's hard to really get a sense of what the scientists are saying, or just how much damage it's doing to our gut, but we'll go through that. There's an article called The Interplay Between Gut Microbiome and the Immune System. And it says with 70 to 80% of immune cells being present in the gut, there is an integrate interplay between all the various aspects of what's going on in our intestines. So there are a lot of living organisms in our gut, and introducing a substance that is killing them and also our own immune cells is yet another negative aspect of alcohol, and explains why we don't feel so good the next day or even hours afterwards. I mean, it's basically a poison, and science is basically telling how it is poisoning us. And yet it feels so good. I mean, our emotional response to ingesting alcohol can be very positive. We've talked about some of the reasons for that. But that feeling we have, perhaps, is not accurate to what it's actually doing to us. It's harming us in many different ways, although we get a subjective buzz from it. The National Library of Medicine has an article entitled Acute Binge Drinking Increases Serum Endotoxin and Bacterial DNA Levels in Healthy Individuals. And this is a quote from that article. Our findings indicate that even a single alcoholic binge results in an increased serum endotoxin levels, likely due to the translocation of gut bacterial products, and disturbs innate immune responses. So what happens in the gut gets transported into the bloodstream and into the brain. And so it's not just what's happening in the gut, it's that some of these negative products are then more likely to be released into the blood. So yet another aspect of how alcohol may be deleterious or dangerous to our health. And there's another article you may want to look at. It's from the Article on Society 2014. The title of the article is The Effects of Low-Dose Alcohol Consumption. And what this article does is it looks at especially the claims that alcohol helps the heart, and it really denies that. It concludes that the evidence for the beneficial health effects of moderate drinking in many respects is quite weak. That's the conclusion of the article. They go through a lot of the arguments. I think the article is like 20 or 30, 40 pages. It's a very long article. But they examine how many of the studies that purported to show that there was a health benefit to alcohol, especially for the heart, just poorly constructed studies, and they conclude the evidence is very weak, quite weak. So there's an example, the effects of low-dose alcohol consumption. So no health benefit to alcohol appears to be what this, it's clearly what this article is claiming, and there are many other articles. And I tend to see that the majority of scientists are now saying that there's no real benefit to alcohol. It's not helping your heart health at all. So there's no positive health benefit. So in fact, it's just the opposite. We've been highlighting all the negative health aspects. And so it's clear, this idea that red wine's going to make you live 3 years longer, it's just not true. What about cancer? Does alcohol cause cancer? Here's an article entitled Light to Moderate Intake of Alcohol, Drinking Patterns, and Risk of Cancer. Results from 2 prospective U.S. cohort studies, 2015. So light to moderate intake of alcohol, drinking patterns is the article. And they conclude that for men, the risk of cancer is not appreciably increased for light or moderate drinking. So that's up to 2 drinks per day, they say. However, for women, even within the range of just 1 drink per day, that there are alcohol-related cancers, mainly breast cancer. So if you're a woman, even drinking 1, on average, drink per day can increase your risk for cancer, and certainly 2 or 3 would be even a greater increase. So yes, it appears that alcohol can cause an increased risk for cancer. And this increased risk can be related to what alcohol actually does inside cells with our DNA. Here's another article, National Library of Medicine, Impact of Alcohol Consumption on Male Fertility Potential. We've seen this article before, 2022. Alcohol and its metabolites. So alcohol is processed by the body into acetaldehyde, which is even more poisonous than alcohol, can be classified as genotoxic agents. So they are toxic to our genes. In fact, they enhance the rate of DNA strand breaks, leading to chromosomal rearrangements. So alcohol and its metabolites, and alcohol and what it's turned into, gets inside our cells and disrupts our DNA. Studies on human blood lymphocytes show mutagenic activity in alcoholics. So it causes mutations, indicating alterations in DNA replication. So that might explain why the risk for cancer increases with alcohol use, because they do have found that alcohol and what it is processed into by the body are genotoxic. They do affect and disrupt our genes, our DNA, so the basic instruction blocks of our cells. Again, just another negative aspect of alcohol. And alcohol in our cells can have other effects. This is from that same article, Impact of Alcohol Consumption on Male Fertility Potential. It affects our cell biology. Ethanol, or alcohol, the kind of alcohol people drink, can interact with lipids, generating fatty acid ethyl esters and phosphatidethanol, which is a chemical I don't know about, but which interferes with the physiological cellular pathways. So the actual physical processes that the cell is doing, that the cell needs to do to live at its best. So they're actually seeing which chemicals, which processes within the cell are disrupted by alcohol. So you can see why the liver has a very strong and effective mechanism to remove ethanol, alcohol, from the body, all these negative aspects. So it hurts our DNA, it damages our DNA, and it also damages processes within the cell. And from the journal Medical News Today, the website, Medical News Today, does drinking alcohol affect testosterone? And it can, but really for individuals who drink more heavily. So this affects both men and women if they're chronically heavy drinkers. However, occasional to light to moderate drinking can actually increase testosterone production in some to some extent. So if you're a light to moderate drinker, I don't think the testosterone issue is really important. But if you are a really heavy consumer of alcohol, this is yet another negative for your physical health. So when we put all this together, what the scientists and medical researchers are telling us, it seems that alcohol is really affecting us in a lot of negative ways. So for me, that's day 45, I feel that alcohol as a social lubricant is becoming less and less important to me. I think that it's something I feel I have to give up, and I think spiritually, religiously, the religions, many of the religions have taught us that giving up things, negating some of the body's wants and desires has an important role to play in our greater happiness. And I think you got to say no to alcohol and drugs at some point. You have to go through that saying no. Otherwise, you'll end up addicted and your life will be very unhappy. Your life will be a mess. And so if you have to say no at some point, why don't you just say no at the very first domino? So instead of waiting for the dominoes to get bigger and bigger and bigger and then saying no, you just say no at the beginning. No, I'm not going to do the domino trail of increasing use of alcohol or other drugs. And of course, with what I'm saying about alcohol, this applies to every other mind-altering substance. So I feel better and better with with this decision I've gone through. I've taken my own advice that I've told you and do research and understand what the experts are saying. And the more I looked at what scientists are saying, the more I realized just the many, many different negative impacts to our body. And for me, what spirituality means is attunement to what we're actually experiencing and being very careful about that. Taking time to back away from the incessant flow of life. I think that so many people, especially in our hyper society of everything on demand, of immediate gratification, of the consuming, of entertainment, people are just on the go to one thing and one thing next, the next thing. That's part of the human monkey brain, is to always be wanting to do something. People used to relax a lot more. They used to just sit on the porch and just enjoy the evening slowly. We've lost that. And I think by having a balance of all that activity with times of reflection, times of contemplation and silence, where we really see what we're experiencing. So in terms of alcohol, instead of going from drink to drink to drink, to talking to this person, that person, to having another drink, to enjoying that taste, and just to stand back from that process, to examine it, say, well, what am I doing? And the hours after that, to look at, well, what am I feeling now? I had a pleasant experience with the consumption of alcohol. It made me feel good. Yeah, it does. It's very powerful. But now I feel a little tired. I sort of want to go to sleep, but I don't. I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm talked out. I'm really not enjoying my entertainment anymore. So the buzz is very short-lived. And then as you sober up, you're back in normal reality. And you begin to make this spiritual judgment, this life judgment that, hey, I like the buzz feeling. It'd be great to have that buzz all the time. And that's where the path to alcoholism occurs, where you try to do that. You try to capture that initial buzz all the time. And you cannot do it. You cannot capture that buzz. You can make it last longer and longer and longer by drinking, but I've seen alcoholics do that. And just as soon as they try to get more and more and more, it turns into, oh, I hate this, I don't even want it, I know I'm not getting it. And yet they just drink more because their brain is just calling for it. They're not even enjoying it. They're not getting the buzz. They're just feeding the beast. And they don't like it. And so they're drinking out of control without the buzz. And then they're getting all these negative feelings. They're hating themselves. They're not enjoying it. And you're not getting the original buzz. So spiritually, the answer is to give it up earlier, to go through a path of negation and denial for the greater happiness of your life, to learn to use your sober brain as a source of happiness. And all of this that applies to alcoholics, extremely heavy drinkers, also applies to light to moderate drinkers, although it's light to moderate. And I feel the same thing, that at some point the alcohol stops giving what was the original buzz. And that's because our brains are not adapted for that. And so the long-term path of being an absolute abstainer means that you have to look for what provides happiness on other paths. And there's a certain moral clarity to just saying no right away at the beginning, because it's hard to say no when you have the alcohol in your system. And teasing your brain with just a little bit of it, because some areas of brain are going to want that, and it's just so much easier to just say a total no, and then you've clarified your blood, your brain, for something else.